This is the 14th video of the wargaming of the Virginia campaign of 1860 war during the American Civil War. I am playing the Union and the game's artificial intelligence is playing the Confederates. It is May 4th, 1864, 12 noon. Turn 15 out of 1,390 turns. And it's the Union movement phase. Let's get rid of those yellow boxes that all pop up when objectives is turned on. And let's see what's moved. Let's go to the tail end of the 5th Corps. Oh. That hasn't moved. That hasn't moved. Oh, guess sounds like nothing's moved, which could be true. Okay, this is moved. See how far back that goes. This is moved. This is moved. This is moved. Okay. We're up to here. This is moved. This is not. This has. Okay, this is where we left off. We just started to move the 5th Corps. Oh, looks like almost the end here. We've got the artillery, and after the artillery will be the wagons. And that'll be it for the 5th Corps, which is good. And here's the wagons. They always bring up the rear. Now there's 4 Union Corps here. There's the 5th Corps under Warren. There's the 2nd Corps under Hancock. There's the 6th Corps under Sedgwick. And there's a 9th Corps under Burnside. Technically, he's not part of the Army of the Potomac, but he is for this campaign. He actually reported directly to Grant, technically not to Meade, because he was senior to Meade, and if you go by seniority, which they usually did as far as promotions, he should have been the commander of the Army of Potomac because he was senior to Meade. So that's why they had this subterfuge where supposedly he reported to Grant, but really not. Meade still pretty much controlled him. Okay, so we're going south on Tabernacle Creek, and then we'll hang a left. Just want to make sure we're to Laurel Hill, and then we'll go to Spotsylvania, which is our goal, our first strategic goal. Alright, I'm lost. Where are we? It's easy to get lost on this map. Okay, here we are. Yeah, it's very easy to get lost. You always want to make sure your route. If you get on the wrong road, sometimes you'll be screwed. The road will just end in the woods, and that's it. And this map is so huge. It's probably the biggest map ever made. It's 1.1 million hexes. Now there's another map that's really huge, the Battle of Leipzig during the Napoleonic Wars, and that is 500,000 hexes, roughly less than half the size of this. And I figured out that map, and if you converted it to a board map and put it in the gymnasium, that map would have measured 56 feet by 56 feet. So by this similar token, this probably would have been about 100 feet by 100 feet, if you can imagine. You couldn't even, you'd have difficulty even seeing the end of the map in a room at 100 feet, let alone making out anything on it. Now I routinely played War in Europe, and that map was 8 feet by 8 feet. That was a board game map. And I had it on, I mounted it on artboard and then covered it with clear plastic. And so it was in 18 by 24 inch panels. And the map, which was one of I don't think it was the biggest, but it was one of the biggest maps at the time, measured 8 feet by 8 feet. And you could not reach over that map to move units in the center. It was impossible. So what I had to do is I had to move the tables apart to allow me to get in there. I made special countertop tables on wheels so I could just roll them apart. And I made them to the size of the artboards. So I think I had it where I could split the center. But that was an 8 foot by 8 foot map, and that was the only way you could move it. You can imagine on a map 50 feet or more, the only way you could do it is right here digitally. You could not have a board game map that big. In fact, 8 feet by 8 feet was too big. Probably 6 by 6, I think, would have worked. Just barely. It's probably the biggest map you could have on a board game. But here, I mean, you can have unlimited maps, but it's easy to get lost. And thank God they have this J map. You just press the letter J, and it gives you the whole campaigning area. You can see all of these blue hexes are the Union. The Confederates will be in red, and right now I don't see any Confederates. So there's none on there. But you can see how enormous this map is. Richmond's way down here. So, although you can have a map this big, you got to be real careful because it's easy to get lost. But there's nothing like a big map. You play one of these games, Jesus, you don't want to go to a smaller game. Although this one is the king of all maps and of game turns. I don't know of any other game that's 1,390 game turns. At most, there are a couple hundred. This is huge. But I always like playing a game like this because you have infinite possibilities as far as strategies go and the element of surprise. Now, I have to admit, I'm a little surprised that I haven't been attacked by the Confederates yet. I don't know what that means. If they're getting ahead of me and they might be at Spotsylvania waiting for me, or they're planning to ambush me from the side. Unknown, which makes these games very interesting because unlike a board game where you see all the pieces, you can't see. What's this guy doing here? Oh, I think I wanted to send him across. That's right. The line of march here up this way. This is just one guy. He's an aide, but he can be a good scout because he's expendable. Well, yeah, we have fog of war, and I think in all of these games I play now, it's always fog of war, which means you can only see the enemy units any one of your units can see. And if your units can't see the enemy, you can't either. And so that's why right now the whole Confederate army is hidden. I have no idea where it is because none of my units can see it. Now, if a scout can spot part of it, then I might have an idea where it is. But right now, I have no idea. I don't know if it's behind me, on the side of me, or in front of me. Now, one of Lee's greatest advantage is in this campaign was he was able to outthink Grant. Not always, but for the most part, he envisioned what Grant was going to do next. And when he failed to, he got some lucky breaks. Like at Spotsylvania, he really didn't think Grant was disengaging to move south. So he pretty much stayed in place, but one of his corps commanders, Anderson, decided because the woods along the roads were on fire, and he decided to keep marching because that wasn't conducive to his men getting any sleep. So he kept marching to Spotsylvania and just beat Grant there. But if he would have followed Lee's orders, he would not have beaten Grant there. So Lee got some lucky breaks, but for the most part, he outgeneraled Grant, both in the fighting and his strategic analysis. So I don't know if AI is General Lee. I guess we'll have to see. But I do know there are a tremendous amount of advantages for the Union fighting in the woods. First of all, they can't deploy artillery. It won't deploy in the woods. Second, you move one hex at a time in the woods. Pretty much. Sometimes you move two, but mostly you move one. So you have no mobility at all. And second, this Union Army is mostly comprised of scum. It's low morale units. A lot of draft dodgers and people that didn't want to be in the military. So their morale is very low. D's, E's, and F's. Which means if they go toe-to-toe with the Confederates, they're going to run away probably. Large sections of this army. They're very brittle. Whereas I looked at Confederate morale, and they're like supermen. And they're big. Their regiments are big, so they can melee with the Union. And doesn't stand a good chance of making them run off. So you got to be very careful as the Union. It's true you have twice the troops, but they're twice as brittle. So I don't know what is going to happen when they start fighting. I know I played a bunch of moves in Chancellorsville, and I had two columns moving, and the head columns got into a fight with the Confederates around Chancellorsville, and one of my units in the brigade broke, and the whole brigade ran away, plus most of the artillery with it. So, and then the head of the other column did the same thing. They broke when one unit got casualties. They took a morale check, and he broke. And then when a unit breaks, all the units around him, their morale goes down one level. So they broke because they were stinko already. So I had two brigades break just like that at the head of the column. So this army's worse. From what I see, you've got more low-end units than at Chancellorsville. At Chancellorsville, the main problem was 20,000 men in that army had enlisted for 3 years, and their enlistment was up halfway during the Chancellorsville campaign. So they had no incentive to fight at all. They just wanted to survive, and then they go home. Their enlistment was up. But here, it's worse because these guys were just draft dodgers, or they're bounty soldiers, and the bounty soldiers, they enlisted just for the bounty, and then they deserted at the first opportunity and enlisted for another bounty. And they desert too. They desert as fast. Okay, this is the Second Corps. So they had no incentive to fight at all. They had an incentive to collect a bounty and run away. Okay, looks like we're up here. Nope, these guys have moved. Okay, is most of the Second Corps moved? So during 1864, looks like the Second Corps has moved. Okay, good. The Union Army was pretty much comprised of a lot of scum. Unreliable, unstable. So you have to be real careful with it. Yeah, you always outnumber the enemy, but Robert E. Lee's army is not comparable to these guys. Man for man, they'd whip their ass. And even, okay, Richardson, then we go across to, just seeing where we go. Uh-oh, I'm lost. Richardsville. Oh, we go down. Okay, that's right. So we want to fall in behind the Second Corps. Okay. All right. Yeah, so I decided to play the Union Army, but frankly, I'd much rather play the Confederates. But it's more of a challenge to play the Union because they are so stinko. But I have no love for them. But the Confederates are different. They're a heroic army. The only reason the Union beat the Confederacy is because they had more men, they had more equipment. That's it. If the armies would have been equal, the Union would have got beat. And if Lee's army had been equal to Grant's, Grant would have been retreating, not because he wanted to, because his army would have been shattered. Even though outnumbered 2-1, Lee was constantly attacking in the wilderness. Unfortunately, his casualties were so heavy that he couldn't attack anymore, and that's the only reason he didn't. Extremely aggressive general, even with inferior forces, and he whipped Grant's ass all the time. Grant was just there. I don't know, it was stupid. He was giving Meade like his grand ideas that were not based on any reality. It was just said, oh yeah, attack there in 2 hours. So he had some grand strategy, but it was completely unrealistic. They'd be like attacking impregnable positions. So Grant was basically not a very good general. The only thing is he had so many more troops, so he could sacrifice them. He didn't give a shit about them. He'd sacrifice them without a second thought. He's kind of like Adolf Hitler. Never cared about his troops either. So he was definitely not he's not a great general, I was going to say, but he was a persistent one. But he wasn't a very good one. He was persistent. That's all you can say about him. And they called him the Butcher, and that was for good reason. Because he never cared about his men, so if they got butchered, who cares? So anyway, this is what I'm commanding. Not because I want to, because I thought it'd be interesting. So if I live long enough, we'll turn this game around and then I'll play the Confederates, which I'll be much happier playing than these dogs. But since I'm commanding them, I am going to win with them, despite their mean nature. Yeah, I used to like to play Ancients a lot, miniatures and board games. And this company, what is it? I always forget their name. I always screw it up. I think it's Wargame Design Studio. They put out a lot of online games, and they are very good. I just love. They're like these, like board games. They're board games online, which I like a lot. And they have a lot of I have most of their. What the hell's going on here? I have most of their Napoleonic ones, and they have a lot. They cover basically, I think, all the major Napoleonic and Civil War campaigns. Now, the only thing I don't like is they didn't have, which surprised me, they didn't have an Atlanta campaign, which they should have had. Should have been like this, except for the Atlanta campaign. Instead, all they have are the individual battles of the Atlanta campaign. But they don't have a big campaign like this, which I would have loved. And it's the same for Vicksburg, which surprised me. I thought, oh, they should have a big campaign, but no, it's just the individual battles, and that's interesting, but I want a campaign. But outside of that, they've got, I think, all of the major Civil War battles, and I've got all of them, which I don't know if I'll live long enough to broadcast them, but I may. So they're Civil War and their Napoleonic battles. They cover all of them. They're just great, and they're relatively inexpensive. I think they're $39, except twice a year they lower the price of everything to $29. That's where I usually buy most of them. And it's usually Christmas or the 4th of July. You know, 2 weeks before that, they'll lower the prices. And you just download them. But you really want to have a computer with almost a gaming processor. And the second thing is you need a big monitor. I would not play with a monitor less than 32 inches. That's the minimum. Now I'm playing with a television set that's 58 inches, which is friggin' great. And it's 4K, so it's got the resolution. There are some disadvantages in using a television for a monitor, but in gaming, it's not one of them. I've got a lot of different online games, like from Steam, and they play wonderfully on this. And I bought this TV for $158. It was before Christmas, so it was a real steal. And it's 58 inch. This is like perfect wargaming monitor. So if you really like wargaming, I mean, you got to check into these. Now they also have a lot of World War II, and I've got a couple of those, but I'm probably going to buy some more around the 4th of July. So they don't have all the campaigns yet, but they do have a lot of them. I have Battle of the Bulge, which is great, Fall of France, and Kharkov 1942. So that was like the kickoff to Case Blue, which was Hitler's 1942 campaign in Russia. So those are three excellent games, and they're huge, of course, just gigantic games. And the next one I want to get, there's Typhoon, which is a campaign against Moscow in 41. There's Market Garden, which I think would be interesting. There's a third one. I'm trying to think what the hell it is that I want. There's a lot of them. They probably have about 15 or 20 games, World War II games altogether. But those are the two biggies I wanted. And then I've got, I think, Decision games or Matrix games. I've got several of theirs. So they've got one on Case Blue, which off and on I'm trying to learn the rules to. Those are a lot more complicated than this. And then you got Grisby's games, which are super complicated, but very interesting if you're really into it. So I've got his Russia 1941 to 1945. He's got one on the Western Front, but it starts in 43. I wish it started in 39. But then I got France 1940. And then I've got, it's kind of like Grisby, but it's called Decision Games. It's a Waterloo. It's not a Waterloo. It's a Battle of the Bulge game. So I'm kind of looking at that, but try as I might, my time is just not enough for all of this stuff. Like I'm playing 3 of these at once, or 4. I'm playing this one, Waterloo Campaign, Battle of the Bulge, where I'm playing the Americans, and it's an outright victory, but I'm still playing it to see what happens on the end game. And then I'm playing Battle of the Bulge as the Germans, which is really hard because their historical deployment is just so bad. In fact, they do more cursing in that game than I've ever done in all the other games combined. I mean, you have the Ore River, which is only crossable by, let's say, a half a dozen bridges, and they're all blown. So you need bridge repair units. So do the Germans deploy them near the river crossings? No, they deploy them way in back of their army. And if that isn't bad enough, they're fixed, so you can't move them, and they're released, I don't know, sometime later in the game. And then, right opposite the river crossings, you've got the American line, and you've got a lot of obstructions, and the engineers are way back from the river, so they can't remove those obstructions. And then you've got pillboxes in back of the obstructions. Well, there are 2 kinds of artillery in the game, and artillery that's effective against hard targets like pillboxes and armor, and artillery that's effective against soft targets like infantry and trucks. Well, a pillbox is a hard target. So what do the Germans have opposite them? Soft target artillery, which is friggin' worthless. It's mostly no effect. So where's their hard target artillery? Well, those are the 88s and the big guns like the 300-inch mortars. They're way in back of the army, like 30 hexes away, and of course they're all fixed. So it's super frustrating playing the Germans because they have all the equipment to kick the Americans' ass and cross the Meuse, but it's in the wrong place. Why? I don't know. You'd have to be a moron to put it back there and to fix it too. Jesus. So I was looking around. Unfortunately, they don't have a scenario. I guess nobody has a brain that develops different scenarios. What if you put, instead of all the soft target artillery, what if you put the 88s right up near the river crossings? What if you put the bridge units right up near the river crossings? What if you put the engineers to clear all the obstructions and minefields right up near the river crossings? What if you did that stuff? Why, the Germans would probably win, hands down. But they don't have a scenario for that. So you got to play with what you have, and I have the historic one. And I might get it to work, who knows. But it's just a lot of wasted time and effort. So what I did was, they had the German army deployed on open hexes, which is a great artillery target for the Americans. So I pulled them back into the woods and cleared the roads. So I'm going to bring up the bridge builder units in the 88s. But for a while, I'm really not going to attack the Americans. I'm just going to hunker down in a strong defense. And so far, the Americans fired their artillery at me and did very little damage because I moved back from all those clear hexes. So we'll see if that's a good strategy. You know, you never know. but I think it will be. But the Germans are going to lose a lot of time, and I don't know whether that will be fatal or not. Probably, because they don't have a lot of time to do stuff before the Americans come on like gangbusters. So we'll see how it works out. I may run out of time, but I'm going to minimize my casualties, because I played a couple practice start games, and when the Germans came out and attacked those pillboxes with infantry, their infantry divisions just get slaughtered. And they're ineffectual against the pillboxes. So I'm not going to do that. I'll wait till the 88s get up. And admittedly, that's going to be 6 or 7 turns. And then even the damn bridge building units, there's probably a dozen altogether, and like 9 of them are way in back of the army and fixed, so they can't move. So I've got 2 or 3 I can move around, and that's it for all those bridges. And I just have a low threshold for stupidity, and the German deployment is stupidity. That's the interesting thing about wargaming. You can analyze this stuff. And when these talking parrots on the news talk about military affairs, they're imbeciles. Just like when they're talking about the Ukrainian war, they don't know what the F they're talking about. If you're a war gamer, you have a lot better understanding. I'm not sure whether anyone participating in the war has a better understanding than war gamers. Maybe sometimes, but most times not. I mean, let's face it, most of those officers and everything are jarheads, and somebody tells them what to do and even how to do it. So what do they actually know? Nothing. You see all these colonels and generals on TV commenting on stuff. Most of them are full of shit. And you can tell they only were promoted because they licked off someone's boots. They don't have any genuine military ability. So this is how you learn about these battles. To war game against artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence has its limits, but it's constantly getting better. And I'll tell you, a lot of times it's a lot more challenging playing against artificial intelligence than a human. Because artificial intelligence will do really bizarre stuff that you wouldn't think of. And with fog of war, if you aren't ready, you'll get your ass beat. Whereas a normal war gamer is kind of a dunce. They play a predictable war game. More predictable than AI. Now AI, I always know AI is an attacking fool. So they're closer to Robert E. Lee, because if they feel there's an opening, they'll attack. And you can really be caught short with your pants down if you're not ready. This is the supply. This is the Army artillery and supply. So I like playing against AI, and AI always fights to the last man. They don't give a shit. Instead of withdrawing to rebuild their units, they'll just fight them out. So you've got to be expected to conduct a fight to the finish, because AI will retreat sometimes, but almost never. So it's a real challenge to fight them, because you're in for a fight. You're not going to just, we're going to withdraw. They'll stand there and fight to the end. And they do have some bad characteristics. AI doesn't do any scouting, as far as I know. So you can actually catch them with their pants down. I don't know what that means, catching a robot with his pants down. I don't know if I want to see that. But you can do it, because they're notoriously bad on scouting. They also fight to the finish, which means they can be surrounded. And you can get battles of annihilation against them. And AI's clever in setting up traps. I will admit, they are damn clever, because they know all the rules. How can this guy be disrupted? Oh yeah, I know how. There's an arbitrary disruptment rule in this game, and I know it exists, where units are just arbitrarily picked and disrupted by the game's AI. I guess to simulate shit that happens. Like some commander will just do stuff that's injurious to the well-being of his troops, and then they'll disrupt. Like maybe he'll force march them for no good reason, or do other shit, or take a backwoods trail, which will be real hard on them, and it'll wear them out and exhaust them. So I guess it's to simulate that, but it still pisses me off. Because for no good reason, you're real careful and everything, and you still get disrupted. Okay, that's my movement. Let's see if we get any new units. It's a hell of a lot of units to move here, by the way. Nope, we don't. So let's go down here, change the scale, and look at my scouts. Now, you may not see it. I can see it because we have a very big map. But I've got 3 scouts out here. Got one there on the plank road. Got another one down here. And I've got another one down here towards Parker's store. And I figure one of those 3 guys will be the first ones that spot Lee. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. So we're going to go to the firing. Now it takes a while before Confederate defensive fire, Union defensive fire, offensive fire. It takes a while before those displays come up, because the map is so big, and I think AI looks at this whole map to see what's going on. Look at this. Spin, spin, spin. And I've got a gaming, this is a gaming computer I've got, so it's got a real fast processor. Still takes a couple seconds. Okay, Confederate movement. Now let's see if anybody spots anybody. Should be pretty soon. This is the 15th turn. I would assume if Lee's trying to engage me, I should see him pretty soon. Doesn't bother me if I don't, because that means it gives me more time to move out of his way. Of course, he could be coming up behind me, or he could be moving ahead of me. So far, at least, it doesn't look like he's moving up to attack me. which is good. I want to get out of these damn woods. Ah, Union defensive fire. Okay, we'll call up the J map. I don't spot any red squares. There's nobody to fire at. Confederate offensive fire. Confederate melee. Okay, I move again. I'll go up to the 5th Corps. Change the scale. Okay, we've just hit Wilderness Church. We're going to march over here. I think we're going to take a defensive position, like right in here, west of Fairview over here, to protect the rest of the army, which is coming down this road. I may even take a defensive position out here, an initial one, and then like a backup one over here. So we'll see. But I'll shortly be able to deploy here. Where's this cavalry here? Is set up to defend against any Union attempt to cut my line here and here. This is the only Union force which is going to be marching down this road, the 5th Corps. All the other forces have been directed to follow the 2nd Corps. So this, in effect, is my rear guard of the army. Well, it's the backup to the rear guard. The rear guard is going to be this cavalry division here. But I just want to get out of these woods. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. Well, see, I've got a guy here, another one down here, but it could be possible the Confederates are coming up on my rear instead of my flank. Anything is possible. So I just want to get the hell out of here with the 5th Corps. It's kind of vulnerable right now. It's the trouble when you're on the march, you're really spread out. Especially the way this army was deployed, which is my usual complaint. The 6th Corps is deployed all over the map. It was really stupid. And then way far north of where they should have been deployed. But be that as it may, we'll live with it. You can see what a big gap there are between these two divisions. I think about 25 hexes. Part of it is they were deployed that way. Part of it is crossing that stream because it takes additional movement points on the bridge, so that tends to space everything out. But we're making good progress here without encountering any Confederates, so I'm happy. I should say without encountering any Confederates yet. They're out there. Yeah, another Confederate or another Civil War game I have. I have a lot. I think I have most of them, almost all of them. There are a couple minor ones I don't have. Well, now that I think of it. Oh yeah, the Shenandoah Valley. I don't have that one. Um, that might be about it. But I have the one on Franklin. There's Spring Hill, which was Pickett's charge of the West. No, no, not Spring Hill. Franklin. Spring Hill is where the Union marched right by the Confederates. And the Confederates didn't attack them. Franklin was where they had that was like the Pickett's charge of the West. And then there's the Battle of Nashville. So I thought, oh, those three would be interesting to fight. They're in one game, which is nice. And a lot of times, this company packaged several battles together, which is great. It's like first and second Manassas or Bull Run is packaged with Antietam, which is nice. There's three battles in there. It's like Chickamauga is packaged with Lookout Mountain, Knoxville. I guess those are the only two. And there's another game, I think is Corinth. That's packaged with Murfreesboro. What the hell's the other one with that? There's another battle with that. I think Murfreesboro is called Stones River. I can't remember the other battle. But that's nice, and they'll give you about 50 different scenarios to play, so you can, like in a campaign like this, there's the Battle of the Wilderness, just that battle. Spotsylvania Courthouse, Cold Harbor, so there's a bunch of different battles with the campaign. And the campaigns, there's a number of campaign scenarios. This is the historic one, so I chose this one. But there are others where they have different assumptions. So it's a never-ending thing. You'll be playing them to the end of your life. Okay, fifth corps is done. Now we go down to second corps. Those are the two lead corps. I believe this is the junction. I'm going to be very careful to check it. And then we go left here. Yep, there's Laurel Hill. And then we zigzag right. And we're at Spotsylvania. And then from Spotsylvania, we can either go south or most of the army will go this way. Well, maybe. Okay, this, I believe this is a main road down to Richmond. So anyway, yeah, we'll be going down that way right now. We'll concentrate on this. So if the 5th Corps gets into a fight, they're on their own. So I think it's going to be a while before the 6th Corps is at the crossing. I want to get these guys to Spotsylvania just in case the Confederates are headed there, which I think they might be, at least with their cavalry. So I want to, and when the 2nd Corps gets there, they're going to dig in a defensive mode. So we're going to, like the 5th Corps is going to defend the 6th and 9th Corps. And then as the 6th and 9th Corps goes to Spotsylvania, the 2nd Corps will be in a defensive position, and the 5th Corps will fall in behind them as rear guard. And then I'll have to pick another objective, because then the 6th and 9th Corps hopefully will go to that objective, and we'll keep leapfrogging like that. But it all depends on the Confederate Army, where I'm attacked and in what strength. So we'll see. Well, 57 minutes on the clock, so we're going to be ending this session shortly, but I'll just move until I can. Whoop. Till the clock runs out, and we'll stop it. But what happened historically, I think these guys moved near the Chancellorsville battlefield, and then they camped. I definitely do not want to do that. Just move till you drop. It's only noon, so hopefully we can still move a lot of guys here out of harm's way. My concern is how far away the 6th Corps is from the crossing of the Rappahannock. I think they're a ways. Okay, I'm going to end the movement now, and let's go up and see how far the 6th Corps is away. There's the 2nd Corps. Shit, look at it. There's the end of it. A couple more turns and the wagons will be across. Well, the 6th Corps, I believe, will be coming down this road. Look at, here's the 6th Corps. Let me just see. Nope, that's a cavalry corps. Shit. God damn. Where is that damn 6th Corps? Oh, I was going off. Here's the 6th Corps. So there's Madden's Tavern. I think they go this way then. Yeah. So there's the cavalry. They got a shitload of terrain to go over before they even get to the cavalry. Oh shit, what did I do with the oh no. Cavalry's got to go down this road. There. And here's the Second Corps. So the cavalry has a ways to go, let alone the Sixth Corps. God damn. And that's just the head of the Sixth Corps. It's strung out like crazy. It's because of the stupid deployment that they had. It's too far back. Okay, so we're going to save it and we'll end it for today.